Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Married Sisters Talk Show. I am your host, Becca Wilson. This show was created to deal with topics and issues that women are facing today. Whether you are married, single, widowed, or divorced, this show is for every sister. Please be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and every Tuesday on our Married Sisters YouTube channel at 12 noon. If you like our show, please subscribe, like, and share.
We are sisters, married sisters, living our best lives, being blessed wives with our misters. We are sisters, we are married sisters.
So let me go through these patterns that I sometimes see in families, and they're in no particular order. One is, so one generation, you guys will relate to this, you have an over-functioner, because you had to grow up quick. The generation before with ball droppers, addicts, abandoners, and so then I've had 10-year-olds make an electricity bill get paid, stuff like that. It's like you have to grow up. You don't get no childhood, and then you grow up and you're so settled in the over functioning. Then the next generation, you do everything for that, and then they under function. So I see that all.
Because when we look at this generation now, like they just don't want to do nothing. Yeah. But on our generational level, we wanted to make sure they have.
If you're Superwoman,
yes,
then it's hard not to give them. You know why? Because you want to give them what you didn't get. Right? And when you overgive that, which is hard not to do, then they don't know how to wipe their nose. And you're like, how did I raise this child? How do I raise this child? Come to me. Don't got no sense at all. My son actually, sometimes what they do is they try to not be you. Mm-hmm. My son made his life about not being me. And I'm an over-functioner in a lot of ways, but in some ways I was an under-functioner. So I made a lot of money. I just didn't end up in the bank. It mainly went to relationally addictive things. Crazy ladies, basically is where it ended.
That's a good way to say it.
That's
I was hoping you was
expensive.
gonna break it down. I'm like, what does that mean?
Crazy women. And they took all the money. I gave it to them. But so my son, he said, I'm gonna work hard and I'm gonna save my money. And the kid's 30 and he's like a multimillionaire. And he's generous and he's responsible and he's a great brother. Wow. And he's a superhuman being and he married somebody more sharp than him. Oh my God. And I'm like, how'd this kid come from me? He's busy not being dad. So sometimes it works the other way, from generation to generation. Here's one. There's different reasons that people have too many children. Back in the day, they'd have 10 kids because they're looking for farm hands. Or they're Catholics and they got 11 children. That's crazy. So anytime, my personal belief, that there might be some really high functioning couple where she gets to stay home and he's got a really good job and they got help, takes a village. Maybe it could do 4, but it's 5 kids, 6 kids, 7 kids, 8 kids. It might as well be a drug addict family or alcoholic family because the older ones turn into parents to the middle ones. The middle ones get lost. And then everybody's tired by the time the youngest ones come along. They just run the streets,
Right.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Too many children.
Yeah, that's my family. My mom is the baby of 10.
Of 10.
10.
See, she couldn't turn around and give much. I liken it to, here's some water. Let's say the cup is the kid. There's 10 cups. And you got to take the husband out of the equation because somebody's got to work, And then one person who's all tired and been having all them babies try to fill up, you don't get much. And if you don't get much, you can't give much. So that's a pattern that I see. Addiction, any kind of addiction. My family, guess what my family's favorite addiction? We don't have a self-respecting alcoholic in the bunch. I'm almost wishing that there would have been. There was this distant Uncle Jack who was alcoholic. But you think a crazy family like mine would have a few extra. Ours is food. Food. And my dad, I told you, his addiction was playing bridge. You turn anything into it. Nowadays, people get their phones out, they'll be tapping away. Those kids, they might as well be in another planet, What that does to your brain when you've been playing video games all day long, all night long. We got a generation that's going to be hurting that's coming up.
Exactly.
Because we were out running in the grass and playing games and had sports, and they're sitting at home, doing electronic stuff.
Right, and it's like they can't think for themselves. Like you should know, take out the trash. It's Tuesday, take it out.
They're in a fog because they're addicted to.
It's like you got to. Do I got to program?
But this is like crack cocaine here, man.
It is.
Oh
my God, that was like. I feel like giving it to young children is just the biggest mistake.
But you'll see a kid that can barely hold an iPad sitting there playing games on an iPad.
Yeah.
I'm guilty.
It's like they almost come out knowing how to do it. They almost at 9 and 11 months, they know that finger.
Girl, that is my grandson Zane. I give him this tablet and
They know what to do. Yeah.
I'll be like, look at this boy. I'm like, this is just too much. And he knows how to go pull up the shows.
And they're wonderful things. And I'm a big fan of Steve Jobs, and he created these wonderful things, and they serve their purpose. You could, your wife could be at work and you could just, hey, send them a little heart. Isn't that cool? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's not a bad, drinking a glass of wine isn't a bad thing. Right. Drink 3 bottles, you run into some problems.
So true. So true. That's like, we can figure out how to break that, I guess, in itself, because it turns into like a substitute. Well, I don't have to teach you anything or train you anything. Just get on this
Occupy
phone.
you.
Yep, keep you occupied.
Yeah.
And so we're not doing our jobs as parenting because we just like, look, you on my nerves. Go sit down.
Go sit down and play this thing.
Do that.
And I feel like that needs to be the conversation, because for me, I'm the millennial of the group. So as a younger mom, like my mom friends are always just like leaning into my wisdom, like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, one, she's not on the phone all day. And she's at daycare, but it's a school, so she gets her education. But when we get home, we still got homework to do. So they gave you homework, cool. But we about to talk about Spanish and learn different words. And so there has to be a balance. Mm-hmm. And so for her, I was so proud of my daughter. I don't put her on Facebook at all. Only because they're so 4. She just turned 4. They're dangerous to putting kids on social media. And I know this because I'm in education, and I sat through a session on the dangers of putting our kids on social media. Needless to say, I put her on there because she was the only one who got all 30 sight words right in her class. And so I say that to say there has to be a balance. She doesn't always have that phone, but do you get a reward to look at your little videos? Yeah. But when she's on the phone, I've also paid for apps that educate her. So she knows in the morning on the way to school, you're going to do the educational app, 10 minutes, and you're not doing any YouTube videos in the morning because you need to get your mind right for school. You're going to school in the evening after homework, you might get an hour or so. So we have to find that balance, because you're right, anything can be an addiction. Yeah. So everything in moderation.
If you grow up with addiction, with a parent, 2 parents, then you're going to do one or 2 things or both. You're going to marry it, or you're going to become it, or you're going to become it and marry it. That's how the sins of the fathers are visited upon the children. So the next one is distant fathers. I'm going to say our generation. I don't know if me and Marche are in the same generation. I think we're in different generations.
Our spirits are in the same generation.
There you go. There you go. There you go. But you know, people in their 40s and 50s, everybody's dad abandoned them that I know of, just about. It's when you're really in trouble is when your mom and dad both abandon you. But whether it's a boy or whether it's a girl, especially if it's a girl, you have father hunger.
Yeah, so true.
And that's sort of the fuel for what we call relationship addiction, because you didn't get enough father attention, father love, and then you have too much of a hunger for, you know, male attention.
And I think what you're saying again brings me back to me saying I was siphoning from my husband, because you know, with my father, you know, as a young girl, I mean, 5 and 6 years old, I have memories of going to visit him, and obviously we were visiting him in the penitentiary, and there are so many memories of that. I can hear the sound of the bars and the things you had to do to prepare to go in, and it's so unique because with him, and I'm so thankful that I'm in the process. Like I said, he's been out for now 7 years, so in that process of learning who he is. But we would go to see him, and the visual that I seen being processed going through the prison, knowing even at this young age that, man, there's some bad people in here. But I'm sitting on this man's lap who I can palpably feel his love for me. I mean, he loved my brother and I, and he still does. My brother doesn't really communicate with him because it was too traumatic for him. But to rationalize between this incarceration and your nurture that I don't get in where I have to go back to, it was such a, you know what I mean? Because I'm looking and I'm in a situation where, man, you treat me terribly, and you're free, but I'm going with the one that I can at least, you're beautiful, you're special, kissing me on the forehead, and I got to see them take you, put shackles, you know, and walk you away, and I'm looking. We would always, because I would go with my grandmother, my aunt, my uncle, my brother, well, 2 aunts, and my brother, and it was just glimpses, like, can we get the last looks? You know what I mean? So when I married my husband, that's all it was. I wanted him to myself. I don't want you to want to go anywhere else. I just want to be right here. You just stay right here. I don't want you to want.
He eventually wanted to walk around.
Well, he wanted to walk.
He wanted to get away.
Yeah, he wanted to walk. And so I didn't realize that. I think you saying and explaining just that the way you just explained that just really gives me clarity of, you know, why I was so hanging on to him.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. We could spend a whole show on every one of these, you know, things I'm bringing up. The next one, I've had 3 women in their 40s from the country, Lebanon, and then during that period of time, every night the city was being bombed. Most of the cities were being bombed, and so. How do you think that affects a little kid when you grow up and then there's COVID? You know, who was the most worried about COVID? It was, see, what happens is if you got a mama who worries and has anxiety, you might as well just strap an electrical wire from mama to all the daughters in the family. That anxiety just go whoom into their bodies. And you got one worrier. And I don't know why its daughters are more susceptible to it from mama, but if I got somebody comes in, a woman has anxiety, I said, "Tell me about your mama."
You think about that because as little girls, I think because too, like as little girls, you're always protecting. Is there a predator out there? You know, that because that's what it seemed like in my family. You know, with my mom, and I'm saying this because I just remember just her anxiety from moving from the farm, Kentucky, to this big city. And even though she had to go out and work, but she was so overbearing with like protecting yourself. Don't you?
The
Yeah, do this, don't do this.
overprotection was more damaging than the actual threat out there,
Yeah, yeah.
as it turned out.
It was because, once we started thinking we could do this ourselves, it was like young girl gone wild, because we were so sheltered and protected in a sense, but we didn't have any type of a life skills though.
Okay, now this next one is a real interesting one. It's not very politically correct. I assure you it's correct though. So my best friend is a gay fellow, by the way. I'm all for gay rights and everything, but nobody's sexuality you was born with. Nobody on this planet in the history of the world, you ain't born with it. It feels like you're born with it because you feel it when you're very young. People say, well, we don't have a choice. They really don't. They have a choice how they act. They don't have a choice. See, the profile, let me tell you the profile of a gay man. You'll never, ever meet a gay man who grew up close to his dad. They do not exist. You won't hear a gay guy say, yeah, my dad and I went hunting and we hung out all the time and we went fishing. Like I say, however you're wounded, that calibrates your sexuality. So the profile of a gay fellow, and he might be in middle age, he might be a Christian, he might be married. He doesn't believe in being gay, but when a good-looking fellow walks in the room, he's gonna react different ways than me and Derek would react. I mean, and that's just, it's hardwired, but they weren't born with it, okay? And so whenever I see that, mamas who are too close to their kid, I said, come on now, mama. He's only 2, but I tell them all kinds of stories of the dad. You know what? Wow. You can hurt a kid in 2 ways, by not loving them enough and by loving them too much. And it's really hard to find the middle ground when you wasn't loved enough, because the temptation is going to love too much. But if this kid has got sisters, he's got an auntie, he's got a grandma, he doesn't got no brother. If there's not a granddad, if there's not an older brother, an uncle, a coach, a teacher, somebody. Now, I'm not saying all those people become gay men, but the percentage is very, very high.
Can we talk about that for a second? I love that, because Sis Toya has read it and so have you. I'm very honest in my book, and I just share everything I've gone through. So I remember I was 16 years old, and that's the first time I experienced abandonment from my mother. And so what had happened was my aunt died. We moved from Houston to Florida. My aunt died, and that just tore my mom up. She was our favorite person. And then my brother wanted to move back with my stepdad to Houston. So 2 things happened. And so in that space, I began to witness my mom just completely abandoning me. So we're in a totally different space. I didn't grow up in Florida, though my family's there and she's from there, but I didn't know anybody. And so my mom busied herself with work. And I was riding my bike to my first job at 16 and doing my 3 online classes, and I was alone. Coming home, she was not there because she worked nights. And so I never saw her.
You were very, very vulnerable.
Yeah, and I was just like, and so in growing up, my mom was like always my best friend. She smothered me with love and abuse. So she would beat me and then smother me with love. And so I've always idolized women. So at 16 years old, I was at this high school, and it was filled with so many gay people, so many. I had never seen so many gay people before in my life. And I felt so confused, yet glad that the love I couldn't get from my mom, I was gonna be able to get. So from these women who were in pursuit of me. And so I went from never having dated women ever to just so open to the idea. And I can remember prior to that, when I was younger, I was probably like 11. That's the first time a girl did something with me, to me, at a trusted friend. My mom does not know, and if she watches this, she'll know. But that happened then, and I never thought about it. And so at 16, my mom abandoned me, and from then on, I had always been attracted and trying to fill a void, because I'm like, I just want my mom, and I just want to be close. And I've always been close to my mom, never had a closeness with my dads. My dad lived in Florida, and I was raised in Houston, was never close to him. My stepdad was nasty to me, still is nasty to this day. We don't speak. And so I only knew closeness from a woman. And so what came with that was a romanticism that I had never experienced. And so sharing it with my mom, she shamed me. And being a believer, because we were Christians, but it wasn't the kind of Christian I wanted to be. I'm like, I love Jesus and he loves me. He made me. So help me figure out what this identity issue is. But she rejected me completely. So that made me seek more and continue to allow that to be my lifestyle. Yeah. And then, of course, met my husband. But that's still a part of me. That is like, that's still a part of me. And it's very real, you know. So I love that you brought that up.
It wasn't so much about choices or sin per se. It was about abandonment and vulnerability and confusion and the environment that you were in. If your parents would have both been there, you know, for you, then I mean that was part of your struggle, part of your cross to bear. But it makes sense what you're saying.
Thank you. Wow. And I feel like it was important to share because I love that you just said like choices, because I feel like even as somebody who's lived that, I'm like, I can't just have lived that. This is a part of me and I not say something. For others of you that might be struggling, like I hate when people say to people that are gay, bi, in between, or all the other letters.
I don't even know what all the other letters are.
So
I get so confused.
Yeah, I just say, you know, all the letters.
There's non-binary,
it's too
queer.
Yeah, it's a lot, but people can be so insensitive and say, well, you chose that. Like, what? Nobody would choose to intentionally be ridiculed, cut off by family, rejected, talked about by the world and their family. But the only choice you make is like we choose to be in relationships with our husband. I'm going to choose to be with you. I'm going to say I do to you. That's the only choice. You choose to follow the feeling that you feel in your heart, and that's the choice you make. You don't say, I want to be attracted to this person. It's a feeling that comes over you that you get to choose to say yes or no to.
Where they sometimes go wrong is they say, I was born with it, and then you don't get to do the work of healing yourself, whatever. With me, it was crazy women. You know, now I'm working on healthy. You know, a little better investment, you know, and that. So when you just with all my couples, I just bring it all back. Let's talk about your childhood. Let's talk about your childhood. Let's talk about your childhood. It's ain't about your marriage. We'll see how it fits together. You know, here's another one. I call it Cinderella and Cinderfella. I got this guy. He's sweet, but he's not sweet. In his family, he grew up, and his mom was one of those connivers, and his sister was a bigger conniver. He got a school loan, you know, for college, and the mom made him give it to the sister, and he stuck with the bill. Can you believe that? And so his story was, he didn't feel loved in his family, and he was scapegoated for being capable and able to provide money and whatnot. I don't know why things happen in certain families, but they do. And so what did he do? You know, when he grew up, he picked you know, relationships where he would over-enable the woman and do everything, take care of her, and it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And he felt used all along the way. And then he did it again, and now he's doing it again. And I told him before I did the feedback session, I said, this 2 hours is going to be the most powerful 2 hours of your life. And I don't say that to everybody. It usually is, but I don't say that to everybody. But I knew this guy. And he said, man, I was like this, you flipped me over on my head. And I like it, but I hate it because now I know, and I know too much, you know. And but did it fix him? No, it's so deeply rooted that, and there's a lot of Cinderellas out there. And so I work with them, and I'm like, let's get you out of the peasant dress and the mop, and you become a real Cinderella that goes to the ball and gets the handsome prince and this, you know, this glass slipper. Let's be that kind of Cinderella. Wow. But generally they overwork, they overgive, and they get in relationships where they may not even be exploited, but they feel like they've been, so they might as well be, So that's an interesting dynamic, and what I help folks do is, again, what we're looking for when we use this family tree is we're trying to figure out the truth. So I get done, and sometimes I don't even know what I'm going to say till I study it. And I'll go, and then whatever the truth is, you just put your finger on the pulse of it. And then they get it. And that's powerful. That's life-changing.
Hi again, this is Becca Wilson. I truly hope you have enjoyed our show today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Until next time, you be blessed and have a great day.